responding to a state of emergency for women, and art farm pump designs to be presented to public. Welcome to this third episode of The Weekly Wire, an audio roundup of highlights from this week's articles in the Somerville Wire news service. I'm your host, John Loftus. You can find the full text versions of those headlines and other Somerville Wire stories 24/7 at somervillewire.news. That's Somerville Wire, all one word, .news. Our first segment this week is about the state of emergency for women, declared in a resolution that passed in February. Councillor Kristen Strezzo says that she and others are in the process of figuring out how the legislation's goal of addressing hardships and challenges experienced by women in the workplace, exacerbated by the pandemic, can be reached. In this clip, she describes the approaches the resolution will take to help disenfranchised women whose economic progress has been impacted by the coronavirus. Industries hit hardest, such as retail, hospitality, and restaurants, are often staffed by women of color and have reported tremendous job losses since March 2020.
So my goal of it was three-pronged, I saw it as. And the crux of it was really stating the fact that when we begin the recovery process of the pandemic, I find it unacceptable that women and families and us as a society be prompted to go back to a time in conditions before or during the pandemic, that we can only rise together and create a better society and culture for us. There are three directions of action steps I was really focusing on. One is the economic development process and the labor market. And there are action steps inside of that were put in the resolution, like better job support, mentoring opportunities, more economic development support within our department of the city's economic development department, and finding ways that we can help women. And then the second, to combat racism and fight for equity in our city. And then the third is to acknowledge that childcare is an intense factor in the economic recovery, and that for generations, our society has ignored the fact that workers have families and have placed the burden of childcare onto the families. But we also know, as is stated in the resolution, that women have cut back on work during the pandemic at 3 times their male counterparts.
In this next clip, we learn about the development of Somerville's Art Farm project, a self-sustaining art and urban agriculture laboratory to be constructed in the Brick Bottom neighborhood. Its creators held a meeting on April 14th to unveil design plans for a pump station that will be part of its infrastructure, making it more environmentally sound. Community input has always been a large part of the process, and because Art Farm has been in discussions as early as 2015, community members are anxious to see the work completed. Listen to Peter Marquez, a community activist long connected with the project, explain the need for Art Farm in a neighborhood like Brick Bottom.
Well, I think there's probably 3 things. One is just for folks who live down here. This has been an abandoned place of the city. The city has not invested in the infrastructure, in the physical space. And, there are, 150 residents here at Brick Bottom, people paying taxes like everybody else. And there's no sidewalks, there's no green space. There's that kind of thing. There's just that, for the 25 years plus that the Brick Bottom community has been here, the city just has not invested in the physical plants. And to compound that, because if you ever get a chance, you're in town, come down to Brick Bottom, take a look at the Green Line and the 3-story tall, 4-story tall structures on both sides of the building that are now here because of the Green Line. So the quality of life has been severely impacted. So that's first for the community here. And our friends in East Somerville have some of the same challenges, with lack of investment, particularly around, what's going to be the Washington Street statement for the Green Line. So there's that part of it. The second part is, as I mentioned before, if we just sit around and wait, what kind of artists, what kind of community is going to be here in 3 years? And so we need to create opportunities, whether they're virtual or whether they're physical around the plant. And I spoke with Greg this week and said, We need to do things with that space on a constant basis, and we need to push the city to say, hey, let's create an exterior that we can work with, even if it's just putting up artwork and printing fence displays of local artists, or having like a regular every 6 weeks a changing show of different work that's shown there. Something to say, hey, this is a real place, we're invested in it.
The Somerville Wire and the Weekly Wire are a production of the Somerville News Garden Project at the Boston Institute for Nonprofit Journalism. Email us with tips, comments, corrections, and any Somerville event or announcement listings that you would like to hear. Go to bingeonline.org to check out more. That's binjonline.org. Have a wonderful week, Somerville.